Hi you guys! So today is a monumental day for my Crypto 101 series because today is going to be the last day that I have a video talking anything about Bitcoin. Okay, so I know this whole entire series I've been relating stuff to Bitcoin to get you guys to better understand crypto in general, but you guys, this is the last time we're talking about Bitcoin, and we're going to be talking about digital signatures part 2, basically putting everything that I've taught you in this entire series all together as like a summary video. So just like all the ideas and everything that I've taught you, everything, mashing it up into one video, and this is going to be the last video where I mention any of this stuff. Okay, so you guys, on that note, welcome back to Getting Digital with Deja. Okay, you guys, so let's hop right into it with a textbook definition of asymmetrical encryption, just to give you guys a little bit of a reminder of what that is. And it's going to be a type of encryption that uses two separate but mathematically connected keys to encrypt and decrypt data and protect it from unauthorized access or uses. And these keys are going to be a private key and a public key, and they're going to be key pairs. Okay, so in crypto, you're going to be using a private key to encrypt the data, which means to hide the data. And then you're going to be using a public key to be able to decrypt the data, or just like uncover the data in a way. So remember when I said that the keys are made in pairs? It's going to be a private key and a public key, and that's going to belong to the sender. That is going to be used to encrypt and decrypt the data. Okay, the recipient, they don't need any of their keys to be able to decrypt this data. And the way it works is that the sender is going to use their private key to encrypt the data, aka the transactional message, and they're going to send the crypto over to the recipient, and the recipient is going to use the sender's public key to be able to decrypt that data, okay, and be able to receive the crypto that the sender sent. So even though the sender's private and public keys are both being used within this transaction, neither one of those keys are going to be actually given access to or anything like that to the receiver, to the recipient. The way that it works is that the network actually does all this in the background. It's going to essentially use the public key that's associated with your Bitcoin address to be able to decrypt that data. So your Bitcoin address is literally shared with anybody. It could be a QR code, everything, right? You can share it with people, and you would share that with the recipient. Now, on the back end, the crypto network is going to go and see that address and associate the public key that's associated with that address, and that's what's going to decrypt that data. So I know when we're saying like the textbook definitions and everything like that, it can get a little bit complicated to understand, but in no way, shape, or form are any keys being exchanged between the sender and the recipient. It's all being done in the background using that Bitcoin address. Okay, again, Bitcoin address can be shared with anybody, but that Bitcoin address is registered to a public key that you have access to, that the sender has access to, which also is connected to the private key that the sender also has access to, and that private key is what's used to create a digital signature. And this is what serves as proof that you are the original sender, because you are the only one who can be able to encrypt that data using your private key. And the only way that it can be decrypted is through your public key, which is connected to your private key. So that's how they know that you use your private key to be able to encrypt it in the first place. Whew. That was a lot of talking, but that essentially serves as your digital signature, and that's how you can sign off on transactions and be able to move around and spend and send crypto or Bitcoin to other people, and that's the verification process for that. So now that we went over like how to use a digital signature, let's go into how the digital signature is actually created. So we're going to rewind a little bit back, okay, to some of my previous videos. So in order to make a digital signature with the Bitcoin system, you're going to need the hash function. You're also going to need the public and the private keys, and you're going to need asymmetric encryption, and that's all going to mix it in a pot together, and then it's going to whip out a digital signature, and I'm going to explain that now. So there are going to be 5 steps to making a digital signature. So step 1, When you're trying to send Bitcoin, your Bitcoin wallet is going to create a message, and that message is literally just like the transaction details, okay? And that's going to be how much Bitcoin you're trying to send, the recipient's wallet address, and a lot of other details that we went over in one of my other previous videos. So go check that out. I talk in deep detail about that. But that is going to be the first step, is that Bitcoin wallet, your Bitcoin wallet, making a message, okay, with the transaction details. Step 2. That message is going to be ran through a hash function, which is going to be named as SHA-256. That is what Bitcoin uses. That's what hash function they use, okay? Step 3. After that is put inside of the hash function, it's going to produce a hash output, or just a hash for short. And you have to remember that hash is specific to only what you input inside of it. So when you input something, like say you put the word toodles, okay, inside of the hash function, it's going to create a string, a unique string of alphanumeric characters, and it's going to be specific and unique to only those words that you put into it. So no matter what else you put into that hash function, it's going to give you a different hash. It's never going to be the same hash as toodles, okay? And no matter how many times you put toodles inside of the hash function, if you put it 1,000,000 times, it's going to give you the same exact hash, okay? And also, once you put something into the hash and it gives you an output, you cannot use that output to figure out what the input was. It's completely impossible, because it's just an alphanumeric, random, unique string of characters. So I just wanted you guys to remember that. We talked about that in my last videos as well. Step 4. That message is now encrypted using the sender's private key, aka your private key. Now, step 5, that encrypted message now becomes your digital signature. All right, so we just ran through how to make a digital signature. So you're not just going to be using your private key to be able to make your digital signature, which is why I went into deep detail about this. You're going to be using your private key and the hash of the original transactional message to be able to make your digital signature. So that means that you will not be able to use this digital signature that you use for this transaction for any other transaction that you may ever do with Bitcoin or any crypto, because it's going to be rejected by the Bitcoin network, because it's always going to be using the transactional message hash. And that hash is only going to be specific to that transaction, because remember, hashes are like a unique fingerprint, a digital fingerprint to whatever you put inside of the hash function, okay? So the transactions are never going to be the same. Even if you have the same amount of Bitcoin that you're sending and you're sending it to the same person, the timestamps are still not going to be the same. So, and the timestamps are included in the transactional hash message. So literally, you can never use your digital signature twice. Every time you make a transaction, it's going to create a different digital signature. And this is really good because this is for like security reasons. That means that somebody, if they somehow got a hold of your digital signature, they can't just sign off on another transaction like you would on a checkbook, writing a check, and you just like copy or plagiarize their signature. You cannot do that when it comes to Bitcoin or crypto transactions. So now let's do a quick recap of everything that we went over to see how a digital signature is verified. So when you initiate a transaction on the Bitcoin network, your wallet software provides 3 items to the network: the original transactional message, the digital signature, and your public key that's tied to the address where the Bitcoin you wish to send is currently stored. Now, once a Bitcoin node receives those items, it will take the original transaction message and run it through the same hash function. All Bitcoin software uses the same exact hash functions. As for the digital signature, it will use the public key you provided to decrypt it. If both hashes match, it's verified. Checking to make sure both hashes are a match ensures the original message hasn't been altered. This is important to know because the digital signature is encrypted, but the original transactional message is in plain text because all Bitcoin transactions are public for all to see. Any slight change would produce a totally different hash. So if someone were to interpret the original transactional message on its way to a node and modify it, aka send it to the address of them instead, when the message goes through the hash function, it would produce a completely different hash, and that means that it will be rejected by the system because the hashes don't match. So the hashes have to match at the end of the day for these transactions to be approved and for it to go from sender to receiver. Once a Bitcoin node is able to decrypt the original message using the public key, that verifies your identity and authorizes you to be able to send that Bitcoin. So remember, keys are created in pairs. So a private key and a public key are paired together using elliptic curve cryptography, or ECC for short. So that means if you can use my public key to be able to decrypt whatever I encrypted with my private key, that means that I encrypted it in the first place, because they're linked together. Okay, they're linked together. Twin. So if you have a transaction and you're not able to decrypt that data using my public key, that means that that transaction was not created originally by me and that it's fraudulent. That means that it was created by somebody else using their private key, and only that somebody else's public key can be able to decrypt that data. Okay, so it makes it very, very secure when it comes to transactions within the crypto and Bitcoin network. All right, you guys, so that wraps up everything for this episode, and that wraps up all things talking about Bitcoin. We will no longer be talking about Bitcoin in my Crypto 101 series. We will be talking about altcoins, okay? So that's XRP, which is my #1 favorite. We're gonna go over Solana, Ethereum, Dogecoin, all these different type of coins. I'm going to be giving you the rundown as if I'm reading you the white paper, okay, for each one of those coins. It's going to be really exciting because I'm going to take you guys inside of the crypto world. There's so many other coins other than Bitcoin, okay? And let's be for real, you guys. As regular retail investors like you and I, Bitcoin is really expensive to get into. Okay, it'd be hitting $100,000 a coin every now and then. You know, that's a lot of money to get into just to be able to own one coin. And yes, you can own partial shares, but don't you want to like own like at least one, like when you buy something? And that's why I say things like XRP and XLM and stuff like that, they're such more of a better option, because like XRP be like $3. You know how many XRP you can get for $3? And that's an institutionalized coin, which means a lot of institutions like banks are going to be using those coins, are using those coins. So the utility behind it is strong. It's really, really strong. It's backed by a lot of stuff, okay? Bitcoin is backed by nothing. Bitcoin is backed by the crypto market itself. Let's be for real. So we're going to focus on coins that actually have a lot of worth, and I'm not talking about monetary worth, I'm talking about utility, okay, you guys? So if you haven't subscribed already, you guys, go ahead, like and subscribe, and follow me through the journey as we enter in the crypto world. And on that note, remember that pretty girls can do crypto too. And I will see you guys on Wednesday. I wonder what coin we're going to talk about.